Nara's hands trembled as she stood before the massive council chamber. The Velian diplomat had never felt so small, so insignificant. Around her, the greatest powers in the galaxy sat in their elevated thrones, looking down at her with cold, disinterested eyes. "Please," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "My people are dying. The Creathian forces have already destroyed 3 of our major cities. We have no weapons to fight them. No shield strong enough to hold them back. We need help." The Draken commander leaned forward, his scales glinting under the harsh lights. "And what exactly can your species offer in return, Velian? What strategic value does your world possess?" Nara felt her throat tighten. She knew this question would come. She had prepared for it. But now, standing here, the answer felt hollow in her mouth. "We are farmers. Artists. Scholars. We preserve ancient knowledge and—" "Useless." The word cut through the air like a blade. The synthetic collective spokesperson, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline form, spoke without emotion. "Your military strength is 0. Your technology is centuries behind standard. Your resources are common throughout the galaxy. There is no logical reason to expend council assets on your defense. But we're talking about lives." Nara's voice rose despite herself. "Millions of innocent people who have done nothing wrong. Children, families." "Sentiment is weakness," the elder Fen representative interrupted. Their ancient voice echoed through translators, cold and final. "The galaxy is built on strength. Your species lacks it. This is simply natural order." The vote happened quickly. One by one, every major power refused to help. The Drakens cited resource allocation. The synthetics mentioned efficiency protocols. The elder Fen simply stated that intervention would set a dangerous precedent for protecting weak species. Nara stood frozen as the chamber emptied around her. Other diplomats walked past, some avoiding her eyes, others looking at her with something like pity. But none of them stopped. None of them offered help. She wandered through the station's corridors for hours after that, not knowing where to go or what to do. Her credentials still worked, opening doors automatically, but what did it matter? In 3 days, maybe less, there would be no Velia left to represent. Eventually, she found herself in a small observation lounge, far from the grand halls where important beings conducted important business. This was where the minor species gathered, the ones barely tolerated by the council, the ones who served as translators and clerks and maintenance workers. A trader from the Trell system noticed her first. His orange skin looked almost pink under the station's lights. "I heard what happened in the council chamber," he said quietly. "I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't save my world," Nara replied. But then she added more gently, "Thank you though." "Have you thought about asking the humans?" another voice suggested. Nara turned to see a Quellan pilot, her multiple eyes blinking independently. Several beings in the lounge made nervous sounds. A Felix merchant actually backed away slightly. "The humans? They're dangerous. Crazy. Everyone knows that." "They're new to the council," the Trell trader explained to Nara. "Only been members for about 10 years. They don't follow the normal rules. They make decisions based on emotions rather than logic." "I heard they rescued some miners last year," the Quellan pilot continued. "The council said the mission was too risky, that the cost was too high. The humans went anyway. They lost 2 ships and 17 crew members, saving people who weren't even their own species." "That's insane," the Felix merchant muttered. "That's hope," Nara whispered. The human embassy was located in the outer ring of the station, away from the prestigious central chambers. Nara had passed it countless times before but had never entered. Now, standing before the door marked with strange earth symbols, she felt her courage faltering. What if the humans rejected her too? What if this last desperate hope was just another dead end? But her people were dying. She had to try. Nara pressed the entry chime. The door opened almost immediately, revealing a human woman with kind eyes and streaks of gray in her dark hair. "Are you all right?" the woman asked in perfect galactic common, her face showing immediate concern. Nara had prepared a speech. A diplomatic presentation. A logical argument for why the humans should care about Velia. But looking into those concerned eyes, all her carefully constructed words fell apart. "They said we're not worth saving," she heard herself say. Her voice sounded distant, broken. "Please. My world is burning and they just voted to let everyone die and I don't know what else to do and—" The room tilted. Nara's vision blurred. She had not eaten in 2 days, had not slept in 3. The stress, the fear, the crushing weight of her world's extinction, it all came crashing down at once. Strong arms caught her before she hit the floor. "Get medical here now," The human woman's voice was sharp, commanding. And someone find Ambassador Lee immediately. As consciousness faded, Nara felt herself being lifted carefully. A gentle voice spoke near her ear, "You're safe now. We've got you." And somehow, impossibly, Nara believed it. Nara woke to soft lighting and the gentle hum of medical equipment. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then memory crashed back. The Council's rejection, her desperate flight to the human embassy, collapsing in the doorway. She sat up quickly, panic flooding through her. How long had she been unconscious? What was happening to Valia? "Easy, easy." A calm voice spoke from beside her bed. A human woman in medical clothing smiled at her. "You're safe. You've been out for about 6 hours. I'm Dr. Minji. You were severely dehydrated and exhausted." 6 hours? Nara's voice cracked. "I can't. My world doesn't have 6 hours to waste." "Ambassador Lee is handling it," Dr. Minji said gently but firmly. "Right now you need to drink this and eat something. You can't help anyone if you collapse again." Nara wanted to argue but her body betrayed her. She was desperately thirsty and hungry. She accepted the water Dr. Minji offered and drank gratefully. The door opened and 3 humans entered. The woman from before who had caught her when she fell led the way. Behind her came a man in military uniform, his face marked with old scars, and another woman carrying a data pad. "I'm Ambassador Lee Soyeon," the first woman said, pulling up a chair beside Nara's bed. "This is Captain Park Ji-hoon of the Earth Defense Fleet, and Dr. Kim Hyeren, our xenobiology specialist. We've been reviewing your situation." "And?" Nara asked, afraid to hope. Ambassador Lee's expression hardened. "And I'm furious. The Council had no right to abandon your people like that. It's cruel and it's wrong." Nara blinked. She had expected diplomatic language, careful words about limited resources and difficult choices. Instead, Ambassador Lee spoke with raw anger, anger on behalf of people she had never met. "The Creathian forces will complete their invasion within 48 hours, Captain Park said, his voice rough but not unkind. "Your planetary defenses are basically non-existent. Your people have been trying to evacuate civilians, but they have nowhere to go." "I know," Nara whispered. "That's why I came to the Council. But they said Valia has no strategic value. They said my people are too weak to bother saving." "Weak?" Captain Park snorted. "Let me tell you something about weak. My grandfather was a farmer before the corporate wars on Earth. He had no weapons, no training, no power. But when soldiers came to take his land, he stood in front of his home with a shovel and refused to move. They shot him. He died protecting a small farm that had no strategic value to anyone but him." The captain leaned forward, his scarred face intense. "The Council thinks strength is about weapons and warships. We humans learn something different. Real strength is standing up even when you know you can't win. Your people are facing extinction and they're still evacuating children instead of fleeing. That's not weakness. That's the strongest thing I've ever heard." Tears filled Nara's eyes. In all her years as a diplomat, no one had ever spoken about her people this way. "We're going to help you," Ambassador Lee said simply. "But the Council." "Forget the Council," Ambassador Lee interrupted. "We're not asking their permission. We're informing them that we're intervening in Valia, and they can file whatever protests they want after your people are safe." "You would risk your position on the Council for us?" Nara could barely process what she was hearing. "You barely know us. We have nothing to offer in return." Dr. Hyeren spoke for the first time, her voice soft but clear. "On Earth we have an old saying, 'No human left behind.' But honestly we've always thought that was too limited. How about 'no one left behind'? Sounds better to us." "I don't understand," Nara said. "Every other species in the galaxy makes decisions based on logic, on benefit, on strategic advantage. Why would you help someone who can't help you back?" Ambassador Lee smiled, but it was a sad smile. "Let me tell you about human history. We've been conquered, enslaved, nearly destroyed ourselves in wars more times than we can count. We know what it's like to be called weak, to be told we're not worth saving. We learned something from all that pain. The measure of a civilization isn't how strong it is. It's who it protects when no one is watching." Captain Park stood. "I'm mobilizing the 3rd Fleet immediately. We'll need about 18 hours to reach Valia. It's going to be tight, but we'll make it." "Wait," Nara said, her mind reeling. "The Creathian Dominion has over 300 warships in the Velian system. How many ships can you send?" 27, Captain Park said calmly. 27 against 300? Nara felt her hope crumbling. "That's suicide." Captain Park grinned, and there was something fierce in his expression. You're thinking like the Council. Big fleets, formal tactics, honor-bound warfare. Humans don't fight like that. We fight dirty. We fight mean. And we never ever give up. He's not joking, Ambassador Lee said. Humans have a reputation in the galaxy. Other species call us unpredictable, irrational, dangerous. They're right. We are. And right now that's exactly what Valia needs. Dr. Hiron placed her hand gently on Nara's shoulder. We're not just sending military ships. We're sending medical teams, engineers, agricultural specialists, teachers. We're planning for after the battle because we're going to win and then we're going to help you rebuild. Nara couldn't speak. She could only stare at these strange beings who had decided to risk everything for people they had never met. Get some rest, Ambassador Lee said, standing. In a few hours we'll brief you on the operational plan. You're coming with us to Valia. Your people should see that they haven't been abandoned. Not by everyone. As the humans filed out, Captain Park paused at the door. Oh, and Nara? When we get there, stay close to my Marines. They get very protective of people they're rescuing. Sometimes too protective. After they left, Nara lay back in the bed trying to process everything. The Council had abandoned her in hours. The humans had committed to saving her world in minutes. What kind of species were these humans? And why did the rest of the galaxy fear them so much? The human warship felt different from any vessel Nara had traveled on before. The corridors were narrower, the lighting harsher, and everywhere she went, humans rushed past with purpose and urgency. No one seemed relaxed. No one wandered aimlessly. Every person had a mission. Nara stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching through the viewport as the human fleet prepared to jump to Valia. 27 ships against 300. The numbers made no sense. This should be a massacre. You look worried, Captain Park said, coming to stand beside her. His uniform was different now, combat gear instead of dress uniform. He carried weapons openly, something that would scandalize most Council species. I'm terrified, Nara admitted. Captain, I'm grateful for what you're doing, but how can we possibly win this? Captain Park smiled. Want to know a secret? We probably can't win a straight fight. Good thing we're not planning one. Before Nara could ask what he meant, the ship lurched. Space twisted outside the viewport and suddenly they were in the Velian system. Nara's breath caught. Her homeworld hung in the distance, beautiful and blue, surrounded by a swarm of Crethean warships like insects around wounded prey. All ships, battle positions, Captain Park commanded. Remember, we're not here to destroy them. We're here to confuse, irritate, and embarrass them while we evacuate civilians. Make them angry. Make them chase us. Make them stupid. The communications officer, a young woman named Corporal Han Jisu, grinned. Sir, the Crethean commander is hailing us. He wants to know if we're aware we're outnumbered. Tell him yes, we can count, Captain Park replied. Also tell him his mother was a cargo hauler and his father smelled of recycled air filters. Nara gasped. You can't insult a Crethean commander like that. It's against all protocols of civilized warfare. Exactly, Captain Park said. Civilized warfare has rules. Rules mean predictable. Predictable means boring. We're not boring. On the view screen, the Crethean fleet began to move. But instead of the organized formation attacks that Council militaries used, they broke apart in confusion. The human ships scattered in different directions, each one broadcasting different insults and challenges on open channels. Crethean cruiser following us, sir, one pilot reported, sounding almost cheerful. He's really mad about that comment about his ship's paint job. Good, keep him angry, Captain Park ordered. Angry enemies make mistakes. The battle that followed was unlike anything Nara had ever witnessed. Human ships dove and weaved through space in patterns that made no tactical sense. They fired weapons at impossible angles. They used debris fields as cover. One ship actually rammed a Crethean destroyer, damaging both vessels, then retreated while broadcasting what sounded like laughter. Are they insane? Nara whispered. Probably a little, Dr. Hiron said. She had appeared on the bridge wearing medical gear. But it's working. Look. Nara looked at the tactical display. While the Crethean fleet chased human warships in chaotic patterns, transport vessels were slipping down to Valia's surface. Human marines were landing in the major cities. Ground teams report contact, Corporal Jisu announced. They've reached the first evacuation point. Civilian count is approximately 4,000. Nara watched the screen, her heart's pounding. She could see her people, small, fragile Velians, being shepherded onto human transports by armored marines. The Marines looked enormous next to her people, like giants protecting children. Creathian ground forces moving to intercept, another officer warned. Lieutenant Choi's squad is closest, Captain Park said. Order them to hold that position until evacuation is complete. Sir, that's only 12 Marines against approximately 200 Creathian soldiers. I know. Send the order. Nara watched in horror as 12 human Marines took defensive positions around a hospital where Velian civilians huddled inside. The Creathian forces advanced in perfect formation, their weapons charged and ready. What happened next would haunt Nara for the rest of her life, but not with fear. With awe. The Marines didn't retreat. They didn't surrender. They fought with a ferocity that seemed impossible. When their weapons ran out of ammunition, they used whatever they could find. When their armor was damaged, they kept fighting. When one Marine fell wounded, another dragged him behind cover and kept shooting. They're holding, the tactical officer said, disbelief in his voice. 12 humans against 200 Creathians, and they're actually holding the line. Of course they are, Captain Park said quietly. There are civilians behind them. Marines don't retreat when civilians need protecting. It's not in their programming. Programming? Nara asked. Not literal programming, Dr. Hiron explained. It's cultural. From the time human soldiers begin training, they learn one rule above all others: protect those who cannot protect themselves. It doesn't matter if those people are human or not. It doesn't matter if the odds are impossible. You hold the line. On the screen, evacuation transports lifted off, filled with Velian civilians. The Marines still held their position, though several were clearly wounded. Finally, when the last civilian was safe, they began their own retreat. All ground teams, fall back to secondary positions, Captain Park ordered. Well done, Lieutenant Choi. Get your people patched up. The lieutenant's voice came through rough and tired. Sir, we have wounded but no casualties. The hospital is secure and empty. All civilians evacuated successfully. A cheer went up across the bridge. Nara felt tears streaming down her face. 4,000 of her people. 4,000 lives saved by humans who owed them nothing. But the battle was far from over. Sir, Creathian commander is hailing again, Corporal Jesu reported. He's very angry. He's demanding we surrender immediately or he'll begin orbital bombardment of civilian population centers. The bridge went silent. Orbital bombardment meant death for millions. It was a war crime by any standard, but the Creathians were desperate now. The humans had made them look foolish and they wanted revenge. Captain Park's expression hardened. Open a channel. All frequencies. I want everyone in this system to hear this. He stepped forward, facing the view screen. When he spoke, his voice was cold as ice. Creathian Commander, this is Captain Park Jehun of the Earth Defense Fleet. Let me make something very clear. If you harm one civilian on that planet, if you fire one shot at a defenseless target, I will make it my personal mission to ensure that everyone in this galaxy knows the Creathian Dominion murders children because they couldn't beat a small human fleet in fair combat. Fair combat? The Creathian commander sputtered. You fight without honor. Without rules. You're barbarians. You're right, Captain Park agreed. We are barbarians. We're unpredictable, irrational, and we hold grudges for generations. So ask yourself, do you really want to give us a reason to make the Creathian Dominion our enemy? Forever? The silence stretched long. Nara held her breath. Finally, the Creathian commander spoke, his voice tight with rage. Reinforcements are coming. 3 more battle groups. When they arrive, you will all die. Maybe, Captain Park said. But until then, we're going to keep rescuing people. And there's nothing you can do to stop us. The transmission ended. Captain Park turned to his crew. All ships, continue evacuation operations. We're not leaving until every Velian who wants to leave is safe. I don't care how many Creathian ships show up. We hold the line. Nara looked around the bridge at the human faces, determined, tired, but unafraid. These strange beings had come to a system far from their home to save people they didn't know. They faced impossible odds without hesitation. For the first time since the invasion began, Nara felt something she thought she had lost forever. Hope. The Creathian reinforcements arrived exactly when promised. 3 full battle groups jumped into the system, their massive warships blocking out the stars. Nara watched from the bridge as the tactical display updated. The human fleet was now outnumbered 15-1. Sir, we should retreat, the tactical officer said quietly. We've saved almost 30,000 civilians. That's more than anyone expected. We can come back with reinforcements. Captain Park didn't look away from the viewport. How many Velians are still on the planet? Approximately 2 million in areas we can reach, Dr. Hiron said from her station. Most are in shelters or trying to reach evacuation points. Then we're not leaving, Captain Park said simply. Sir, we cannot win this, the tactical officer insisted. The mathematics are impossible. Since when have humans cared about mathematics? Captain Park turned to face his crew. We told these people we would save them. We don't break promises. Not now. Not ever. Nara felt her throat tighten. They were going to die. All of them. These brave, foolish humans were going to die for her people. Incoming transmission, Corporal Jesu announced. It's from the Council Station. The Draken Empire is demanding we withdraw immediately and stop interfering in Crethean operations. Delete it, Captain Park said. I don't have time for politicians. Another message appeared on the screen. Then another. And another. Nara leaned forward, reading them in disbelief. Captain, she whispered. These aren't from the Council. These are from other species. Minor species. They're sending messages of support. Support doesn't win battles, the tactical officer muttered. But the messages kept coming. The Trell Consortium. The Quellan Federation. The Felix Merchant Guild. Dozens of species that the Council barely acknowledged were sending transmissions. Some offered supplies. Others offered intelligence. One message simply said, "We're watching. The galaxy is watching. Don't let them make you stop." Sir. The communications station lit up with alerts. I'm detecting new jump signatures. Multiple ships entering the system. Nara's heart sank. More Crethean forces? But the ships that appeared weren't Crethean. They were smaller vessels, old freighters and converted mining ships, but they bore the markings of a dozen different minor species. At least 50 vessels, none of them military grade, but all of them moving to form up with the human fleet. This is Captain Veln of the Trell merchant vessel Bright Fortune. A voice crackled over the communications channel. We heard humans were doing something stupid for people who couldn't pay them back. We thought we should probably join in. More voices joined in. Quellan pilots. Felix traders. Even a few Talaran explorers whose species hadn't seen war in 3 generations. We don't have weapons, one captain admitted. But we have cargo bays. We can help evacuate civilians. Captain Park stared at the view screen, and for the first time since Nara had met him, he looked genuinely surprised. How did you all? The humans have been broadcasting everything, Captain Veln explained. Every battle, every rescue, every transmission between you and the Cretheans. Half the galaxy has been watching. You made the Council look like cowards. You made us realize we were cowards too. We're tired of hiding. We're tired of pretending that abandoning people is somehow logical or civilized. Dr. Hiron was smiling through tears. You came. You actually came. Of course we came, a Quellan pilot said. Humans taught us something. Being weak doesn't mean you have to be helpless. It means you stand together. The Crethean commander's voice cut through the transmissions, filled with rage. This is meaningless. You have merchant ships and old freighters. We have warships. You will all die. Maybe, Captain Park said calmly. But while you're destroying us, we're going to be broadcasting everything to the entire galaxy. Every civilian we save. Every shot you fire at unarmed ships. Every war crime you commit. And when we're gone, the whole galaxy will know exactly what kind of species the Crethean Dominion really is. We've already started broadcasting, Corporal Jesu added with a grin. Current viewer count is approximately 40 billion across 200 star systems. You're famous now, Commander. Everyone is watching. The Crethean commander's next words were spoken through clenched teeth. You're bluffing. The Council won't care. They never have. You're right about the Council. Ambassador Lee's voice joined the conversation. She was calling from the embassy back on the Council station. But ordinary citizens across the galaxy care. I'm currently receiving messages from over 100 worlds. They're angry. They're demanding their representatives act. Some are threatening to withdraw from the Council entirely if nothing is done. Public opinion means nothing, the Crethean commander shouted. Then why are you yelling? Captain Park asked. Look at your tactical display, Commander. You're surrounded by witnesses. Every ship here is recording. If you attack us, you won't just be fighting humans. You'll be fighting the moral outrage of billions. Your empire will become a pariah. Is Valia really worth that? The silence that followed was long and tense. Nara watched the tactical display, seeing the Crethean ships holding position. They could attack at any moment. They had the firepower to destroy everything. But they hesitated. This is irregular, the Crethean commander finally said. This violates all established protocols of warfare and council intervention policy. Good, Captain Park replied. Those protocols were designed to protect the strong and abandon the weak. It's time for new protocols. Ones written by people who actually care about doing the right thing. More ships were arriving now. News vessels from various worlds coming to witness the standoff. The Crethean commander was trapped. Attack and become villains in front of the galaxy. Retreat and lose face before the entire Dominion. On the planet below, human marines and civilian volunteers from a dozen species continued evacuation operations. Every hour, thousands more Velians reached safety. Nara watched a monitor showing ground operations. A human marine, barely out of his teens, was carrying 2 Velian children through rubble. He was wounded, limping, but he refused to put them down until they reached the transport ship. A Trell merchant helped an elderly Velian couple onto her freighter, speaking gently in broken Velian. A Quellan pilot used her small ship to evacuate people from a building surrounded by Crethean soldiers, flying so low and fast that the enemy couldn't get a clear shot. This was what the galaxy could be, Nara realized. Not the cold calculation of the Council, but beings from different worlds standing together because it was right. Sir, the tactical officer said quietly. The Crethean fleet is withdrawing to high orbit. They're not attacking. Captain Park nodded slowly. Continue evacuation operations. We're not done yet. Nara looked at the captain, this scarred human who had defied an empire and changed the course of galactic history with nothing but 27 ships and impossible courage. Thank you, she whispered. Captain Park glanced at her and smiled. Thank us when everyone is safe. We've still got work to do. On the view screen, transport ships continued to rise from Valia's surface, filled with civilians heading toward safety. The Crethean warships watched but did not fire. The galaxy watched and witnessed. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the strong had blinked first. 3 months had passed since the standoff at Valia. Nara stood in what had once been a destroyed city square, now rebuilt with human engineering and the labor of a dozen different species. Velian children played in a new park while their parents worked in reconstructed buildings. The scars of war remained, but life had returned. It's beautiful, Dr. Hiron said, standing beside Nara. The human doctor had stayed on Valia, helping establish hospitals and training centers. Your people are strong. They've rebuilt so quickly. We had help, Nara replied, watching a human engineer show a group of Velians how to maintain a water purification system. Nearby, Trell merchants were teaching farming techniques they had learned from their own world's recovery after a natural disaster. The humans had kept their promise. They had not just fought for Valia, they had stayed to rebuild. Engineers, doctors, teachers, farmers. They brought knowledge and resources, asking nothing in return except that Velians help each other. Ambassador Lee is calling. Corporal Jisu's voice came through Nara's communication device. She says you'll want to see this. It's about the council vote. Nara's stomach tightened. The Galactic Council was voting today on formal sanctions against humanity for their unauthorized intervention in the Valia situation. The major powers were angry. Humans had broken their rules, embarrassed them in front of the galaxy, and shown everyone that the Council's word was not absolute. She hurried to the communications center that humans had built in the temporary government complex. On the screen, Ambassador Lee appeared from the Council station, but she was smiling. The vote failed, Ambassador Lee said without preamble. The Council tried to sanction us and they couldn't get enough support. How? Nara asked. The major powers control most of the votes. They used to, Ambassador Lee corrected. 43 minor species voted against the sanctions. They cited something they're calling the Valia precedent. They're saying that if the Council won't protect vulnerable worlds, then they have the right to seek protection elsewhere. On the screen behind Ambassador Lee, Nara could see chaos in the Council chamber. Representatives were shouting. The Draken commander looked furious. The Elder Fen representatives were huddled together in what looked like a panic. It gets better, Captain Park's voice joined the conversation. He appeared on another screen, grinning. 78 species have signed a new mutual defense treaty. They're calling it the Protection Alliance. Any member species that gets attacked can call on all other members for help, regardless of strategic value or council approval. Who's leading this alliance? Nara asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. You are, Ambassador Lee said. They want Valia to be the symbolic capital. They want you to be the first chancellor. The species that was abandoned by the council, now leading an organization that promises no one will ever be abandoned again. Nara sat down heavily. I'm not qualified for this. I'm just a junior diplomat who... You're the person who stood in front of the council and begged them to do the right thing, Dr. Hiron interrupted gently. You're the person who refused to give up even when everyone said your people were worthless. That's exactly who should lead this. Over the following weeks, Nara watched as the galaxy transformed. The Protection Alliance grew rapidly. Species that had lived in fear of stronger neighbors now had somewhere to turn. The Council's absolute authority crumbled as more and more worlds joined the new alliance. The major powers were not happy. The Draken Empire made threats. The synthetic collective calculated probabilities of conflict. The Elder Fen warned of chaos and disorder. But they did not attack. Because behind the Protection Alliance stood humanity, and no one was quite ready to test how far humans would go to defend their allies. Nara found herself in the rebuilt council chamber on Valia, now serving as the Alliance headquarters. Representatives from over 100 species filled the seats. Species that had once been ignored, dismissed, or barely tolerated. We gather today not because we are strong, Nara said in her first official address as Chancellor, but because we choose to stand together. The old galaxy was built on power and fear. We're building something new. A galaxy built on cooperation and compassion. The chamber erupted in approval. Nara saw humans in the audience, smiling and applauding. She saw Captain Park, now promoted to Admiral, standing with his officers. She saw Dr. Hiron with her medical teams. She saw Ambassador Lee, who had become the Alliance's primary liaison with Earth. After the session, Nara found Ambassador Lee on a balcony overlooking the city. The human was watching the sunset, her expression peaceful. Do you think this will last? Nara asked. The major powers will try to break us apart. Probably, Ambassador Lee admitted. But you've got something they don't understand. You've got people who know what it's like to be abandoned, and who've decided never to let it happen to anyone else. That's more powerful than any fleet. The humans taught us that, Nara said quietly. No, Ambassador Lee corrected. You already knew it. You proved it when you kept fighting for your people even after the council gave up on you. We just gave you the opportunity to show the galaxy what real strength looks like. A message appeared on Nara's device. She read it and smiled. There's another species requesting Protection Alliance membership. The Koryath. They're being threatened by the Creathian Dominion. Ironic, Ambassador Lee noted. The Creathians are making the same mistake they made with Valia. Should we help them? Nara asked. Ambassador Lee's smile was fierce. What do you think, Chancellor? Nara thought about the Koryath, a species of peaceful traders with minimal defenses. She thought about how the Council would respond, with calculations of strategic value and resource allocation. She thought about how her people had suffered because no one thought they were worth saving. We help them, Nara said firmly. We send ships, supplies, and support. Because that's what we do now. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. Spoken like a true leader, Ambassador Lee said. I'll inform Captain Park, sorry Admiral Park. He'll want to lead the mission personally. He likes the Koryath. Says they make excellent tea. As Ambassador Lee walked away to make arrangements, Nara stayed on the balcony, watching her city come alive with lights as evening fell. Somewhere out there, the Koryath were waiting for help that they probably thought would never come. They were wrong. The galaxy had changed. The old order of power and abandonment was dying. A new order was being born, one where the weak stood together and became strong, where compassion was valued as much as military might, where species were judged not by what they could offer but by their inherent worth. And it had all started because one desperate diplomat knocked on the door of the human embassy, and the humans had answered with two simple words that would reshape the galaxy. We'll help. Nara smiled as she watched transport ships rise into the evening sky, already heading toward Koryath space. The Protection Alliance was young but it was growing. The major powers would test them. There would be conflicts and challenges ahead. But Nara no longer feared the future. Because she had learned something important from humanity, something that would echo through the centuries. Sometimes the greatest power in the universe is simply refusing to let others suffer alone. And that was a power no empire could defeat.